What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC. Today we're checking out the Olight Oclip Pro, an upgraded version of one of my favorite models in the Olight lineup. And not only is it more powerful than the original with a maximum output of 500 lumens in its turbo mode versus 300 lumens in the original, but it also introduces a handful of new features as well. So the original featured both a floodlight and a red light mode. The Pro has both of those modes, but it also introduces a spotlight mode. So you have a lot more control over the type of light that you're emitting. So you can go with your floodlight if you want a lot of spill, light up your immediate area. But if you want the more controlled tight beam, you can swap over to that spotlight, reach out a little bit further. It still has the red light mode as well. And so you can preserve your night vision, use that for signaling. And all of it's controlled through this new control center, very similar to what we see in the Arkfeld family, meaning that even though this one has more modes, I find the user interface to be a little bit simpler and easier to remember than the original Oclip. And so obviously there's a couple trade-offs with all of these additional features. The first being that it's slightly more expensive, although not significantly so, at about $39.99. Right now, it's the same price on Amazon or the Olight website. I do have a coupon code on the Olight website, which I'll leave in the description, which will save you 10%. But I would always check both because those prices do fluctuate up and down, and sometimes one is cheaper than the other. So I'll leave a link to both down in the description of the video. Now, the other major trade-off is going to be the size. And so this one is a little bit larger than the original Oclip, but still really compact. It ends up being about a 1/4 inch in each dimension. So in terms of our length, we're looking at 2.24 inches. In terms of the width, 1.1 inch, and in terms of the thickness, another 1.1 inch. So a little bit bulkier, but still ultra compact. It also has this really nice pocket clip that's kind of like one of these binder or chip clips. Nice rubberized grip on the inside, so this will clip even to super like thin, slippery shirts. Like if you have like a silk shirt, this will still grab onto it. It's not going to slide off. Really nice grip on there. And it also has a magnet at the base of that clip, so you can stick it to your toolbox, your car, your fridge, whatever metal objects you have nearby. So it gives you a lot of different mounting options. The one you see here, I believe is sold out on their website. It might still be available in some places, but this has the dragon and the zodiac signs on the front and this nice gold frame around those emitters. The ones that are still available are the black, the orange, and the OD green. I would imagine, just like their other models, we'll see other configurations and special editions of this introduced in future sales. So if that's something you're interested in, I might consider holding off until their next sale, where they'll probably introduce another variant of this. Now, this is USB-C rechargeable, non-replaceable battery, but it does have a 580 milliamp hour, 3.7 volt lithium ion battery. And as always, with all of their recent releases, they do offer lifetime warranty on these lights now. And so let's get into the operation of this, starting with the floodlight mode, as that's the selector on the left. So you can see that dial, there's 3 different segments. The left is your floodlight. The middle is your spotlight, and the controls for those sections are identical in terms of getting to the different modes. They have different outputs, and obviously one has more spill, one has a tighter beam, but the controls themselves are identical. They have all of the same modes. It changes a little bit for the red light mode because that only has 3 different modes. So we'll talk about each of those as we go. You'll also see just when we change this or we turn it on that there's a light in the center of that button. That's our battery indicator. So when it's green like it is now, that means it's got nearly a full charge, 60 to 100%. Once it changes to orange, you know you're in the 30 to 60% range. And when it changes over to red, it's below 30%, down to 1%. Obviously after 1%, it's gonna just turn off on you and you won't have any indicator light or output from the regular lights either. And so that goes on while you're controlling it, but I figure it's easier to see with the light off. And so in order to get into the main mode of the floodlight section, you just click the button. It has a memory mode where you left it, and so this is the low mode, which is 10 lumens, and that's going to run for 27 hours. If you hold that button while it's on, it will cycle into the next mode, which is our medium, 100 lumens, 3 hours and 30 minutes of runtime on that. And you can see it's got this kind of nice spill on it, really floody light there. And holding it into our high, 300 lumens, only a minute here before it steps down to 180 lumens, so still going to be higher than our medium. That runs for 100 minutes on that 180 lumens before stepping down one more time to 100 lumens for 10 additional minutes. Now if I hold that button, going to cycle back down to low, but this still has a moonlight mode, a turbo mode, and a strobe mode, so I'm going to turn that off. In order to get to the moonlight mode, we hold it for 1 second. And so The moonlight mode, obviously only one lumen here, so not ultra bright, especially under the camera lights that we have on right now, but it'll run for 6 days. When you hold the button from there, just cycles right back into your low mode. The only thing to keep note of is that when you cycle all the way back through, it drops back down to low, not to your moonlight mode. So if you want to get back into moonlight mode, the only way to do so is turning it off and holding that button again. There we go. Holding that button again, we can turn it off and back on, and it does remember that we're in moonlight mode, so you can leave it there if you want, but once you cycle into the main modes, the only way to get back in is turning it off and back on. In order to get into our turbo mode, a simple double click will get you there. 500 lumens, that runs for 1 minute before stepping down to 300 lumens, which is the same as our high mode. 50 minutes there before stepping down one more time to 100 lumens for 30 additional minutes. And again, when you cycle back down, it's going to go back to low, and when you cycle back through, it will not go back into turbo. So the only way to keep it in turbo is leaving it in that memory mode. Otherwise, it's going to cycle back into your regular modes. Now, there is also a strobe mode, which you can get to by triple clicking, but we all know exactly what that looks like, so I'm just going to skip over it and preserve everyone's vision here, including my own, and move that dial to the middle, which is again our spotlight. And the spotlight is immediately noticeable even in the moonlight mode, so I'm going to start there and then we'll just cycle through the rest of them. So again, hold it for 1 second to get in that moonlight mode, and you can already see even in the moonlight mode it's super controlled, 1 lumen there, same runtime, 6 hours. Now the output is going to be a little bit different on some of these spotlight modes, so I'll mention each of these again. So going into our low mode from here, you see a little bit more spill, but you still have that nice hot spot in the middle, that nice controlled beam. 9 lumens, 27 hours runtime on that one. Into our medium, this is 85 lumens versus 100 lumens on the Floodlight, and here we again get 3 hours and 30 minutes. Into our high, we have 240 lumens for 1 minute before stepping down to 150 lumens, 100 minutes there before stepping down one last time to 85 lumens. And again, when we cycle back down, it goes into our low, not our moonlight. We can turn that off and double click to get into the turbo. Max output on this turbo is 380 lumens, so a little bit less than the 500 lumens, but really nice bright hot spot there in the middle and minimal flooding there. Minute here before stepping down to 240 lumens for 50 minutes, and last but not least 85 lumens for 30 minutes, and again cycling down to our low mode. So identical operations, slightly different output, but identical operations there, so it makes it really easy to remember, and that's very similar to the operation of a lot of their other flashlights. So if you're already in the Olight ecosystem, you're kind of familiar with that. Does change a little bit for our red light mode now. So red light has 3 different modes, 2 of them in their main cycle and 1 through a double click as well. So we'll start with that main cycle, and the first mode is going to be your low mode. 4 lumens here, 29 hours of runtime. This is going to be great. It's a little bit more output than your moonlight mode, but still preserving your night vision. You hold that button. It does not go to high. It has the high output, which is 40 lumens, but it goes into a beacon mode. So if you need to signal someone, maybe you're broken down on the side of the road, want to make sure you don't get hit, draw attention to yourself, or flag someone down, you can use this beacon mode to signal. It's obviously going to be a little bit more noticeable than a white light mode. But when we hold that again, we go back into the low mode. And so turning it off, double clicking, gets us into our high-low mode, which is a constant 40 lumens, and that runs for about 4 hours, rounding out all of our different options and different modes. So a ton of different features on here. IPX6 waterproofing, you have that nice cover on here, and it's more of a rigid cover than your kind of silicone dust cover that we usually get. So it is a little bit more rigid, but nice that we have USB-C recharging there. And then a 1.5 meter drop resistance, and again, all of that in an aluminum body weighing 1.87 ounces. I don't remember if I mentioned that earlier, so I did want to point that out here. But really love this kind of style of flashlight. I've mentioned that a few times now that I'm really into this style of flashlight. Love the original Oclip, and this is really nothing but an upgrade. It's a little bit bulkier, but I think that's a pretty worthwhile trade-off when you consider all of the additional functionality. Let me know what you think of this one down in the comments below. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, joining the channel as a member, or checking out some of my other videos. All help the channel out a ton, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.